So when it comes to rowers, there are a lot of options out there now, and I think a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them could be a good option for the right person, depending on what's important to them. And there's a lot of factors, right? Like how the rower feels to use, what sort of content it can engage with, how much space it takes up, how does it look aesthetically in your home or apartment, and of course, how much does it cost? So when we take a look at the original Ergatta Rower, it really does have a lot of great features that make it an attractive option. It takes up less room when stored upright than pretty much any other rower, and unlike most, is stable enough to stand on its own without having to strap to a wall. It's definitely one of the most aesthetically pleasing rowers to look at, with its cherry wood design and clear water tank. The gamified workouts and programs included with the membership are engaging and very well developed, but the price, well, it isn't cheap, currently costing around $2,099, which is pretty pricey as far as rowers go, though certainly there are more expensive options out there. And Ergatta knows this, right? And so in response, they have recently come out with a new version of its rower called the Ergatta Lite, which is a little bit lighter, has an even smaller footprint, and is made from oak versus the cherry wood of the original. And most importantly, is $600 less, currently being sold at $1,499, which is a very competitive price. Now, I've spent a fair amount of time rowing on both the Ergatta and Ergatta Lite, so I want to share what the experience is like with these rowers, what they do well, what are sort of the downsides here, how the membership classes and programs all work, as well as how they compare with each other, because there's actually a lot more differences between the two than first meets the eye. And if you appreciate honest reviews that get right to the point without wasting your time, or just want to stay up to date with the latest in fitness tech, make sure to subscribe to Connect the Watts. So like I mentioned, the Ergatta Lite is made from oak versus the cherry wood of the original, which has helped lower the cost and weight. Now, looking at these two side by side, I definitely still prefer the looks of the original, but for $600 less, I don't think the oak looks too bad at all. Now, the Ergatta Lite Rower is also a bit smaller, about 2 inches thinner and 4 inches shorter, so a little easier to fit into a smaller space, and it's also quite a bit lighter, weighing just 40 pounds without water, whereas the original weighs almost twice as much at 76 pounds. That said, when water is added, the difference in weight between the two is a lot less, with the Ergatta Lite coming in around 70 pounds versus the original's 100. And even though the Ergatta Lite is smaller and lighter, I don't really think it's any easier to move around, mainly because the transportation wheels on the Lite are a lot smaller. So I found the original to be just as easy or even more easy in some cases to move around, especially going over any sort of carpet or rug. Also, I do want to note that when stored upright, the heavy weight of the original really does help keep it very stable and prevent it from accidentally being tipped over. And with the Ergatta Lite, it doesn't quite have that same level of stability. And while I think it would take a pretty good sized bump to tip it over, it would be a possible concern, especially if you have like a good sized dog running around playing nearby it. The smaller size of the Ergatta Lite also has led to the user max limit to be lowered from 500 pounds with the original to just 320 pounds, and the max height has been lowered from 6 foot 8 inches with the original to 6 foot 4 inches. Additionally, I did notice that for some reason, the seat stoppers, which prevent the seat from coming all of the way forward, are placed differently between the two. And with the Ergatta Lite, it's placed several inches further away from the front of the rower. And I wouldn't have mentioned this because for 99% of us, it's an unnoticeable and irrelevant difference. But my wife, who is 4 foot 10 inches, did find herself occasionally hitting that stopper, which leads me to believe that this could be an issue for somebody shorter than her. So if you're under 4 foot 10 or have a kid that you want to share the rower with, then the original Ergatta might be the best option simply because of the positioning of those seat stoppers. Now, another concern that I have with the Ergatta Lite when it comes to its design is that unlike the original Ergatta, it is not compatible with the high-rise kit. And here's why that may be important for you to consider. So with the Ergatta Rower, the way it is designed and why it is so compact is because it sits really low to the ground. And this is fine if you are pretty flexible, but for somebody who has really tight hamstrings or is a bit overweight, this low seating makes it harder to get into a proper rowing position. And that is why Ergatta optionally sells these high-rise kits, which raise the rower 8 inches off the ground and make it a lot easier for some people to maintain good form. Since those kits are unfortunately not compatible with the Ergatta Lite, I think that if you're a bit stiff or overweight, you may want to more strongly consider getting the original rower. And the low design isn't the only thing that can make both of these rowers more difficult to use for some people. The other thing to notice here is how close the feet placement are. Now again, for me, this feels perfectly fine, and I don't mind the narrow foot pads at all, but it does take some getting used to, especially for those who have less mobile hips and ankles. So that's something just to be aware of. The final few differences between the Ergatta and the Ergatta Lite can be found toward the front. Now, while they both have the same 17.3-inch HD screen, the originals can be lowered and raised via a very easy-to-use pulling mechanism, and the Ergatta Lite doesn't have that, so it relies on these other stoppers that flip out when the screen attachment is raised. It's not a huge difference, but it is a little more tricky to lower the screen down when putting the rower away. And then there is the power cord placement. Now with the original Ergatta, the power cord connects to the base of the rower and so is mostly out of sight, whereas with the Ergatta Lite, it plugs directly into the screen, which I personally just do not like the look of, though to be fair, it is not something that will be noticeable when the Ergatta is stored upright, which it likely will be 95% of the day. Okay, so now in terms of resistance, both Ergatta rowers use a water tank design, which I really enjoy. I think it just looks great, it feels really nice and smooth, and even though the Ergatta isn't extremely quiet, the sound that it does make is very soothing. Now, when you fill up the water tank, you can sort of choose your resistance or drag level by how much water you fill it up with. So changing that level of drag isn't something you're going to be doing very often, if at all. And I think for a lot of beginner rowers, not being able to change, resistance seems like a big deal. But as most experienced rowers know, it's not at all. It's not like a bike where no matter how hard you pedal, the resistance is set at whatever level you choose. Because with a rower, the resistance will naturally increase as you deliver more force. And so changing that drag level, as it's called, is not really that important of a feature. Other than that, the strap system and handle feel good to use, and personally, I do really like the way rowing on the Ergatta Rower feels. Okay, so now let's talk about Ergatta's membership system, programs, workouts, and what all the options are that you have here. So Ergatta's monthly membership subscription is $29 per month and includes pretty much unlimited profiles, each of which will have their own workout tracking, customized settings, and personalized performance metrics. And before I dig into all of what is included with that membership, I do want to point out that if you ever should pause or end the membership subscription, you not only can still use the basic rowing functions, but it'll also still store your workout data, integrate it with Strava, and even still give you access to the music stations, which compared to other rowers like Peloton or Hydro, this is a huge step up as far as I'm concerned. And by allowing those who have paused or left their subscriptions to still be able to track and send workouts to Strava, that makes me much more comfortable recommending Ergatta, and I really appreciate they've allowed for that here. And I think that they allow access with or without a membership because the membership is really good, and I don't see a lot of people dropping it. Ergatta has really gone all in with that gamification approach here versus the watch an instructor lead a class approach. And I know not everybody prefers games over instruction, but I actually definitely do. And it's not just the gamification here that I enjoy, but it is the personalization and programming that I think separates Ergatta from pretty much anything else out there. So first off, Ergatta will ask you to do a calibration test, which is basically just a 1K row time trial. So it can then estimate your current rowing fitness and give you more precise targets for different intensities during your workouts. After the initial calibration test, it'll continue to automatically recalibrate based on your performance every 10 workouts or so, and then will not only adjust your personalized pace targets, but it will also place you higher and higher into different class tiers, which can be useful when trying to race or compare yourself against others. There are thousands of pre-built workouts to choose from that all personalize to your current level, and these workouts all fall in one of several categories. There's meteor workouts, which have you focus on different paces to stay and change lanes to collect tokens and allow you to improve your score. There's pulse workouts, which also focus on holding certain paces as well as certain cadences, and in some cases, sort of a hybrid of both. Then there is the new Echo workout, which is focused entirely on maintaining various rowing cadences. And I actually really like this mode for a very specific reason I'll get into in just a moment. And there are two types of race modes, one being more of a traditional race where you can choose, who you want to race against, and not live, but basically racing against the ghost from their best times. Although they do have live workouts once a week that you can actually sign up for, or you can have the race auto-populate based on your current class. There's also a vortex race mode, which is a bit of a twist as you try to collect the most orbs by going faster, but there are certain times where you get bonus orbs, and so it makes you come up with some more interesting strategies between maintaining a good pace throughout the entire workout and focusing on all-out sprints when it's important. And if you don't want to do a pre-built workout or a race mode, you can just row to your own pace with one of the many scenic rides, or custom build your own workout based on time, distance, or even create your own interval structure. And so within all of these game mode types, there is really an infinite variety of what each of them could look like. For example, some meteor workouts could be focused on endurance and others on quick sprints or intervals. And even within the same game mode type, it always feels different. Okay, so one more thing that I sort of wish was different here is I do wish you could occasionally take a workout and have the suggested paces like drop by about 10% if you really aren't feeling great that day. And I really wish this was a thing because some days I just don't feel like pushing that hard. And I know if I did a pre-built class based on my numbers, it's gonna be tough. Even the ones they say won't be tough can be tough sometimes for me. Now, Ergatta does allow you to select whether or not you want a workout to count towards recalibration, which is good, but I would really just prefer it to lower the targets for a given day, even if it disqualified that score from being held on the leaderboard. And going back to the newer Echo workouts, that is one of the reasons I am happy they have been added, because those workouts are only focused on cadence and not your pace. And so you can take those at any pace you would like while focusing on dialing in your timing. And so now those Echo workouts, as well as scenic rides, are sort of my go-tos when I'm not feeling up for a tough session. But the part I like most here are Ergatta's pre-built programs, which they call push programs. And there are dozens upon dozens of workout programs to choose here based on your goals, the time you have available, and what you want to focus on. And one, they really gamify this well, so it feels exciting to progress among the push program you are in and eventually complete and get a badge as a reward in your profile. But even more importantly, the majority of these programs are just designed really well from an exercise science perspective. In fact, these are among the very best workout program designs I have ever seen on any connected fitness platforms. And some of these programs are short, just designed for a few weeks, and others actually contain multiple blocks and are designed as comprehensive 3-month progressions. So really a lot of options I think provide a lot of value with the membership. Additionally, there are also monthly and yearly challenges to complete. You can make your own challenges with anybody that you have on your rivals list, which I think is a great name for a friends list on this platform. And Ergatta also released a brand new AI coaching mode as well. So how that works is you set up your phone via the Ergatta app to film about a minute of your rowing form, and it'll analyze what you did well and what you need to work on. And so you can see that and watch a video on how to improve your form as well as some drills to focus on, which is great because rowing with perfect form is really difficult, and it's helpful to get some feedback like this. And I know I, for one, need to work a lot more on not leaning back too early, and so it will be helpful to use this tool over and over again to make sure that I improve on that over time. So overall, I really like what Ergatta has here. I think the rower itself looks great. I love the programs on it, and it's just a really nice package with what is included. And I'm happy to see the Ergatta Lite made available just because I think the price is an issue for a lot of people, and it's good to have more affordable options. Though I would make sure that you know what some of the limitations are for the Ergatta Lite when compared with the original in terms of like its weight limits, its stability when upright, and maybe most importantly, the fact that it cannot be used with that optional high-rise kit, which can help those who are less mobile row in a good position. Let me know what you think about Ergatta's rowers in comments. As always, this is Colin Jenkins with Connect the Watts. Appreciate you being here, and I'll see you next time.